how do you have the wherewithal to hustle through and say, like, everyone is going to call me nuts, insane?
We had fun, and fun was not in the insurance vernacular. And
that's what I'm saying. That's the point I'm making to you. So how did you have the grit or the wherewithal to believe in that? How did you do that? How did you keep going? How did you keep hustling? Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. #Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. And of course, now and always, keep hustling. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Juan Lopez. Juan, thank you so much for being here.
Aaron, thank you so much for having me. I believe it's been, we met in person a few years back.
A couple years ago.
I think it was 20. Yes,
you were on one of
the programs that I was producing. It was before the pandemic, I think, honestly. So it was quite a while ago.
You know what? One of the things that I talk about with my wife and kids about the pandemic is that forgetting all the things that happened and people got stronger and tragedies, it's really like a time blur. Like, it's really, like, you could say something happened right before, you could say something happened right after. It's like a pocket of life that I'm not really sure what happened.
Yes, that is
exactly.
That's
so let's jump right in. I want to know about.
Go for it.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, it's like the pandemic was like a divider. There's like before, after. It's kind of like life was different before, life's different after, and it's funny how that it was a whole societal thing. Like, we all understand what happened and how it affected us, but I'm ready to dive in.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure that we know how it affected us, and I think that that's part of having the ongoing conversations in life, is that there are things that happen to people or occur in our lives, and we don't really at the time realize the impact that they're going to have. And it's 4 years later, 3 years later, depending on how you look at it, and you see that. So let's jump right in. Your story is a fascinating one. I want to get into what you do now, but if you take us back, where does your hustle begin? Where did it start where you were like, I want to do something different. I want to be the guy who's on the cutting edge of industries, or I don't want to say pushing boundaries in a bad way, but you know what I'm saying? Like testing, not just sitting behind a desk, typing and answering calls the way everyone else does. So where does that come from?
So I started, I graduated from Florida International University in 2012, which is, quite a long time ago now that I think about it. And I graduated with an English Lit degree, and then I also graduated with a minor in professional and public writing, which was a program that they had introduced that same semester that I was going to graduate. So I crammed it. I did everything in one semester because I saw value in it. I said, okay, I really want to learn how to communicate, not only in a professional setting, but like communicate and cater to my audience. And the whole program was just about how you cater communication to an audience, whether that's written, verbal, whatever it may be. I graduated. I spent a year applying for marketing jobs. A whole year, calendar year, January, December. I did not get one response from anybody. So I said, okay, it's time for me to go into the real world, quote unquote. And just so everyone knows how adept I was at insurance, when I looked at positions and saw underwriter, I thought it was a writing position. That's how much I did not know about insurance. Okay. So, I ended up working at a flood insurance carrier. I do that for a bit. Don't love it, but then, once you fall into insurance, you can get other insurance jobs. So you kind of like, you do the carousel, and I went to Marsh & McLennan. I went on the agency side. Didn't like it there either. And then, I ended up at JAG Insurance Group. When I went to JAG Insurance Group, I was like done with insurance. I was like, I am just going to be here because I need a job until I find something else. I'll just keep applying, whatever. Fell in love with the people, fell in love with the culture. And the real genesis of the me transitioning to marketing starts is, at this point, JAG has a website, and I go to the website, whatever, and for whatever reason that day I was feeling very bold. And I went to the COO, Melissa Rosado, and I said, the website's not really reflective of the culture and not really reflective of the business. It's very mild and standard. I don't, I don't think it speaks to who we are. And to her credit, she looked at me and she said, "Well, I mean, if you want to rewrite it, go ahead." So I did. I rewrote everyone's bios, and the three guys, and I did the whole thing. And in addition to my duties, that I was already doing, I was doing administrative work, like claims and endorsements and stuff like that. So that's where it kind of starts, and from that point on in the office, I'm the writer. You know, it's an important email. Juan, can you come look at it? Then Douglas Jones, who was one of the founders there at JAG, starts getting into Gary Vaynerchuk, and stuff like that. And they go
Hopefully, a future guest on the podcast.
yes, that would be great. That would be great. And he, um, they're really trying to see and emulate, and they get into this thing called the Vader's Mentors Program, which today is called the Sasha Group, which is basically their division for small businesses, where they go in and they kind of say, okay, you need X, Y, Z. This is what you have to do. This is the direction you have to go in, and this is your brand, basically. Just so happens two of the people who work there, Mark Evans, Maribel Laura, both wonderful people. We have a happy hour for them because they interview people in the office, right? They didn't interview me because I was an admin guy. I didn't matter. So we have a happy hour with them in the whole office, right? And we're having a happy hour, and I start talking to Mark, and I start talking to Maribel, and I'm like, yeah, I've always been interested in marketing. I've always been I like this, I like copywriting, just a whole conversation, just word vomit, right? That's what I'm thinking. And then whatever, I'm the last guy besides Doug to leave the happy hour because I had been talking to them the entire time. And I remember the next day going up to Doug, and I'm like, "Hey man, was I annoying? Like, was that?" And he's like, "No, don't worry about it." Little did I know that part of the plan that they were telling Jack to do was that they needed an internal marketing person, to actually do the marketing. Like the guys were not going to be able to do the marketing themselves. If they were going to do it at the scale that they wanted to do it, they needed an internal marketing person. And apparently, as it's been told to me, uh, Doug drove them back to their hotel room, and they were both like, "Listen, you don't have to hire anybody. Just get that guy to do your marketing. He understands your brand. He understands who you guys are. He has a copywriting background. Just do that." So I remember this 2018, and it was like August 2018, and I get called into Doug's office. I'm never called into Doug's office. Okay, never. I've been there, whatever, but never like, "Hey, we're gonna have a talk." I'm like, "Oh, I'm fired. I'm done. Toast." I go, he's like, "Listen, we've noticed that you're kind of probably like a little bored in your position, and you want more. We're gonna go this direction, and we were wondering if you would want to be the marketing person." And I was like, yes, I absolutely want to do that. Yes. Um, so from then on, it was a little rocky at first because they hired someone to replace me on the admin side, and that person quit within 2 days. And
Right back to where you
I was
started.
breaking, yeah, so I was breaking up my days. I told them, like, I'll break my days up into halves. So half the day I do admin stuff for 4 months. Half the day I do admin stuff. The other half I would do marketing stuff. Um, and just like learning and absorbing. Vader gave us like a blueprint type thing, right? That I studied heavily. Um, and then from there it was off to the races, right? I started doing stuff, memes. I started doing like I was very experimental because I thought, I mean, listen, let's not lie to ourselves. No one particularly is in love with insurance. Like no one's like, "Oh, insurance is the best. I can't wait to talk to my agent," unless they like you personally, which is what the connection I made right away. It's like, My saying was always, if they want to have a beer with you, they'll probably want to do business with you. So that's kind of where I went through it. And sure enough, by the time I knew it, I had another guy on the team, Luis Montejo, who is now he is doing oh man, what is he is on a very popular podcast now, and I forget the Dan Levitard. So he's a video editor for Dan Levitard. He got his start there at JAG, and we worked together. And then we worked together with someone who's still there, Johnny Benitez, and they were my video editors. And basically, what we would do is I would, confer with them, talk to them. We would come up with the segments. We would come up with the ideas. We would execute. We would film, and we were off to the races. And for a very long time, I had content coming out 5 days a week. Because I had all those resources, so I could do that. And eventually, uh, JAG sold to Hub International. They are now Hub International South Florida, and I wish everyone there the best, because honestly, the experience there changed my life, and I do want to give a special shout out, especially to Douglas Jones, Fernando Alvarez, and Luis Gazatua, who were the
Three
guys
great guys.
who three great, awesome guys
You
who
want to talk about
saw the
guys you want to have a
potential in
beer
me.
with? You talk about guys you want to have a beer with.
Yeah.
More than that.
So these are, yeah, and all three of them saw the potential in me, saw what I could do, understood that I was miscast, and then when they found the right opportunity for me, gave me that opportunity and let me run with it. So I am eternally grateful to those guys forever.
Well, I want to first of all thank you for that, and I know that at least one of them listens, so hopefully they'll hear that, and we'll make sure that they get this episode. But there's so much in your story to unpack about what inspires the hustle. So I just want to ask you a couple. I guess I don't usually do this, but a couple rapid fire comments on what you said and kind of where it resonated with me. First of all, I think it's incredible that when I met you, I had no idea that you knew anything about insurance. What I mean to say is that you were you were the marketing guy. And the reason why I think that that's important, and I saw it from afar, one of the reasons why I came down there was to learn. I was just getting into marketing for our agency, and JAG was really the only people that were doing it, what I viewed as well. And I think that what's interesting is that you fell into the insurance industry, but you mentioned before that you always had this itch of marketing. And I just think that that so many people would have gotten into your circumstance or gotten into your scenario and let that dream die. And that's so sad, in that obviously you had bills to pay. And when you came out of college and you didn't get a job for the first year, I think everyone would say you did the responsible thing of finding an industry. We're lucky there was the insurance industry. Yeah. But how many people would have just continued that path, veered off, and eventually just like dusted off the camera, if you will, 20 years later and said, wow, I missed this opportunity. Whereas I think what's remarkable about your story is that even though you were doing it and even though you were doing the job well and doing that admin and all that kind of stuff, I think the reason why it worked was, yes, they deserve credit for offering that position, but I think you had to be the vessel or the professional that they kind of, first of all, saw it because you did that thing with the website, but second, felt that in a deep way, like this guy, he's going to do it, and you just jumped all over it. So I think that is an incredible story of just resilience, not painful resilience, but just waiting it out year after year, just for and then hitting the home run when it comes. So as you're waiting for the opportunity, what is it? How do you keep it so that you feel that motivation not to miss the chance to follow your dream? Not that insurance wasn't great, did the insurance work, if you will, but I feel like the day they came to you and they're like, "Hey, we want you to do marketing." Thank you, I'm free. Let me out of the cage. Yes. But so many people would have let that die. So I find that amazing.
No, I think I always, first of all, I think I always carried the banner for the company really well, and I understood that my opportunity would come. It didn't necessarily mean that I thought it would come with JAG, but I always understood. Listen, no one is more self-loathing than a writer. All right, just no one. We release things because we have deadlines, not because we're satisfied with it. Creative people are very have a reputation for being hard to work with and whatnot, and that happens because I've worked with both creatives and on the business side. But yeah, what you're saying is true. I mean, this was 2018, so I was 29. So I was nearing that 30 mark, right? I just turned 35 this year. So I was nearing that, or I might have been 28. So I was nearing my 30s, right? And a lot of people were like, when they hit 30, they're like, my life's over. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And it's not the case. I never would have anticipated that I would have built a marketing strategy and a marketing channel that would get so much attention from the industry and from other people, because at the end of the day, like you said, what a huge compliment for you to say, I thought you guys were the only ones who were doing it well. And
It's
for
true.
me,
Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm
no,
wrong.
I mean, I
2019,
came in,
2019, 2020. Tell me I'm wrong. There's some people that are
it
doing it
was,
okay now, and I'm trying. 2019,
yeah,
come on.
yeah. So and my goal was always like, I'm not going to look at this as insurance. I'm going to look at this as education and entertainment. Okay? We're educating people, we're entertaining people. And that's how I came up with those segments. I mean, we had JAG University, we had, the thing about the culture, like I would interview people in the office, like the staff members, which, mind you, was not an easy thing. A lot of
It
people
was
were camera
hilarious.
shy. A lot of, yeah,
Hilarious.
yeah.
Hilarious.
And I was like, I'm going to educate, entertain people, and that will turn them on to wanting to get insurance from us. And eventually, it kept growing. But it's what I always tell people. I'm like, listen, I didn't go in there in 2018 and then it was already great. Like you're saying, it was like 2019, 2020. We got on a roll, and I was making hundreds of videos a year, hundreds. Okay,
Well,
like we were.
let me ask you two things about that. First, what is
Sure.
it like to be in it? I imagine that when you started, it
Yeah,
was a lot of there was probably a lot of tension in that when you're the only people that are doing something, or you're the guy who's saying, I think we should take this route, I think we should educate, which I think everybody agrees on. But the entertainment part for me was a different
yeah,
level. And I think 100% back to what you
yeah,
said, the person who you want to have a beer with is the person you want to do business with, no matter what they're selling. And I think,
yeah,
but in an industry that at the time certainly was pale, stale, and male, how do you
yeah.
have the wherewithal to hustle
Uh-huh.
through and say, like, everyone is going to call me nuts, insane? And
Uh-huh.
I bet you there were people out there saying, "There's no way this is going to work. You guys are, this is a serious thing, and you guys are making a joke out of it. And what are you doing?" And
Internally, people were like, "What the hell?" Like internally, people were like, "What are we doing? I mean, why are we doing a video about why Louis Gazatua is addicted to the shimmy and dancing? Why are we doing a video where he can't drink coffee because he gets too hyper? Like, why are we doing this?" And I mean, Louis Gazatua, shout out to him, always was down for anything ridiculous. I'm sure he misses it because he can't do it these days. But again, my thought process was, make something good. Just make something good that people are going to actually want to engage with. Um, because again, people forget, we are right now in like the 1960s of television. Okay, and look how television has evolved. All right, social media has not even gotten to its apex yet. We don't understand everything that it could do for someone or something. I mean, we see a Logan Paul, or we see a Gary Vaynerchuk, or we see these people blow up on TikTok, but we still haven't gotten to the point where we have unlocked the entire potential platform. We're not at the Sopranos yet, you know?
yeah, but you know what? I'm going to push back on that, because
Go for
I
it.
would agree with you that we're not there yet. But being the person who's going to take the leap and say, okay, I just want to create something good. You didn't say that. You didn't just say, I want to create something good. You said, I think that this is the answer. I think that this is how you create glue, or create buzz that people want to work with you. And at the time, everyone is thinking, I promise you, everyone was saying, you guys are nuts. I bet you there were people that thought it was illegal. I'll bet you that there are people like, insurance agents, you
It
can't do
was,
that.
it was,
Now you're in Florida, it's the arrest and you don't care anyway, but still, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do
no,
you, and then week after week and video after video. Now you can look back and everybody says, now, when I started doing this in 2020 or 2021, where I launched the podcast and you say you need to have X number of episodes or X number of videos before you see traction, everybody's into that now. But in 2018, if you could actually have said the words, guys, we have a vision, we're going to do this, it's going to take some time, but eventually it will work. That is borderline insane. So I want to know how you did that and how you pushed through it.
So it was difficult, just with, like I said, I had people that believed in me, but at the same time, there was people who, it's not that they didn't believe in me, it's just that insurance is insurance. Like, we are a serious industry. You're protecting people's assets. How are you going to make a joke of it? Which we didn't really make a joke of it. What we did was that, we had fun, and fun was not in the insurance vernacular. And I've read a lot of stuff about storytelling. I've read a lot of stuff about marketing. And I remember I used to tell people, I'm like, okay, Geico. What does Geico say? 15 minutes or more? Save on car
15%.
insurance? But what do you remember? What do you remember about Geico? You remember the caveman. You remember the gecko. You remember all this stuff. You remember mayhem. You remember the characters and the scenarios more than you remember the actual service, because they know that they have to enter your brain. They got to plant that seed. And I always say that marketing is farming, not hunting. Which was, let me tell you something, Aaron. I don't know how it's been for you, but it's very difficult, in my experience, to explain that to salespeople who are used to getting a
100%.
sale. And
that's what I'm saying.
okay,
That's the point I'm making to you. So how did you have the
Yeah.
grit or the wherewithal to believe in that? How did you do that? How did you keep going? How did you keep hustling?
I just had a belief that I was at the forefront of something unique and at the forefront of something that needed to happen. Like you said, a lot of small businesses, let's not even talk about insurance, a lot of small businesses, small to medium businesses, were not doing social media whatsoever. A lot of them are still not doing it, because they think that they need one thing that I will dispel here is that, I feel like a lot of people saw JAG and we had this great setup. We had a 3-person team, we had the cameras, we had all this stuff. All very useful, especially for the pace that we were going at. But you don't need all that, because I'm doing it now by myself with my phone, and I'm doing it. I'm hustling in a different way. And you don't need all that equipment just to start. Okay, you just have to start. So when I started, I was like, okay, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to set us apart? Because that was my main goal, was how are we going to stand, amongst all, listen, everyone's fishing from the same pool in insurance. Okay. Everyone's going to the same carriers. Everyone's pretty much got the same, are getting the same terms. So what sets you apart? It's your staff, right? How quickly can you get that out to people? What relationships you have with the carriers? And that was one thing that was, I also emphasized, is the connectivity. I said we have to. Now everyone tags everyone. Back then, no one was tagging anybody, and I was like, "Listen, you have to. Once you tag Aaron Gordon, you have access to his audience, okay? And you keep building that. Every time a carrier came into the office, it became very traditional for them to ask for the picture. It became a thing, because at that point, and again, insurance agents have relationships with, yes, yeah. But insurance agents have relationships with different carriers and different brokers and all this type of stuff. And just to be blunt, I'm like, okay, like, if this carrier takes a picture with you, that other carrier is going to get jealous, and they're going to be like, when was the last time you visited JAG? They're doing really well on social media. They probably got new clients, and we're missing out on getting business from them because you're not building that relationship. This person from over here took a picture with them last week. What are you doing? So then the carriers started like wanting to visit and wanting to be a part of it, and you it's a whole, you build a whole thing, and then local businesses also wanted to be a part of it because they wanted access to our audience. So it's a building thing where by the time we got to 2021, it was rolling. But in 2018, when it was just me, and they handed me a camera and they're like, figure it out. Uh, I was like, oh man, I don't know. I had to have. It's not that I had a bunch of confidence in myself and in what I was doing. I just realized that there was no roadmap for what I was doing. I was making the roadmap. I was doing it. So if I did something and messed up, cool, because guess what? That's just put in the things that didn't work, but I'm finding out what does work. And I think one of the most valuable um, things I learned at JAG, which I don't think I really learned until I got there, was that failure is great. It's great. Why? Because you're going to learn from it and you're going to build yourself up from it. And you're
Keep
going to
hustling.
take that and you're going to be better. Yeah, and you're going to keep hustling. That hustle. And listen, I had people remember the great videos, but I made some bad videos. I made some bad videos in the beginning. I made videos like where it was me on camera, and it was just very plain and boring because you have to do all that type of stuff. You have to get through all that type of stuff to get to the good stuff. And if you don't, then yeah, it's like you said, you let the dream die on the vine. Let it die, because guess what? Everyone was scared for me because they're like, okay, you had job security. What if this marketing thing doesn't work out? Now I have to let you go. You get what I'm
Well,
saying?
I want to. That's a great, and
And then
that's a
like,
great segue to my last question, which is where you are now. You now started your own business, so you left the security of a big
yes,
business that was successful, that you had seen success in, and now you're taking the real entrepreneurship leap. Previously, it was entrepreneurship within, or
yes.
or taking the leap within an organization. How do you think that? How do you feel differently about your hustle, or about how you can remain motivated, or about your long term success as a solopreneur, for lack of a better term, versus in when you were
Yeah.
in the corporate gig?
So it's, I think that there's limitations. Even when I was a JAG, there was limitations, and there was things that I wanted to do that were like, no, we can't do that, or we don't think that'll work, or whatever. And now, and a big part of it is something that you've mentioned, which is the belief. I've worked in places where they don't believe in it, and when they don't believe in it, it's super disheartening. And, and you're working hard and you're doing what you can, but you're basically, building a house on a shoddy foundation because it's not going to work. So what I've found is that I work now with people like, Sean Fitzgerald, Alexander DePazzo, different insurance agencies. I work with some people who used to work at JAG and went to form their own agency. And I want, I call it uninhibited marketing, is because I want people to understand that they do not need to be inside the box of insurance or finance, or whatever. They don't have to just do content that's like, oh, this is what an insurance agent does. This is what a financial advisor does. This is what a tax person does. This is what everyone does. So this is what I'm going to do. No, you need to break away from all that. I do not want to. Uh, I am a B2B marketer, but I deal more in promoting people than anyone could possibly imagine. Because salespeople, the key word there is people, and people want to connect. People want to feel secure in the people that they're doing business with. And in this day and age of just extraordinary transparency, where everyone knows where you went to high school, where you went to college, what you did this, you did that, what you said on Twitter in 2009, okay, that level of transparency, people see it as bad, but it's actually to your advantage because you are going to attract the type of people who want to do business with you. And I always tell people, I'm like, listen, it's not about the largest audience, it's about the right audience. What good is it for an insurance agent to have a million view TikTok video and not get one lead? when they could have a LinkedIn video that has 50 views, but it starts planting the seeds for people being like, oh, this guy knows what they're doing, right? And building that authority. So what I want to make people understand is that the reason I went solo is because, number one, I wanted to stop building for other people and I want to start building for me. Number two, I believe that there is untapped potential in the social media sphere as far as personal and B2B marketing. And there's a lot of people who are not taking advantage of it. And I want to be the one that kind of breaks them free, breaks them out of the cage and says, hey, what is it about you? You know, what is it about you that we could highlight? Who are you as a person? You know, who are you? What is your hustle? What is your ethos? What are the things that drive you in the morning? Because those are the things that people are going to connect with. Okay. And people are shy. People don't want to be, the word is vulnerable. But once you go into the deep dive of that vulnerability, you will be like, why did I do this before? Because you will connect with people in such a way that is extraordinary
Makes the sales easy,
and
and it
will
makes
help.
the sales easy.
Correct. And it's just like, that's all there is. It's just me highlighting the personality. I don't want to manufacture anything. I don't want to fabricate a personality for someone. That's not what I do. I don't. I enhance. I highlight. I take what's good about you and take it to the next level. I'm never. I don't want to work with people who are going to be like, okay, well, who do you think I should be? I'm out. You know,
I love
I'm
that.
out. That's not who I am. So, that I
I love that.
mainly I'm hustling because I want authenticity in marketing, and if not me, then who? I've
100%.
already done it, and I know I can do it. And do I have the same resources now? No. Will I have them eventually? Yes. And you work with partnerships. Like, listen, I'm a terrible video editor. Terrible. I have a partnership with a video editor, and I send them the stuff, and we send each other business. And those relationships is how you grow, because you have to understand what you're not good at either. I'm not a good editor by any means.
100%.
Yeah.
Juan, your story is awesome. I love it. I love how you started with the marketing thing, didn't give up. I love that you're chasing the dream now. Your hustle is one that I'm inspired by. I'm happy you reached out to be on the podcast. Everyone should reach out to Juan. You should check it out. We're going to put all of his contact information in the show notes. We ask our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational, inspirational quote and what it means to them. So, Juan Lopez, I'm going to turn the floor back to you and say thank you again, and the floor is
Let
yours.
me. I actually have a bunch of quotes in my notes that I keep here.
My kind
So
of
let's
guy.
take a look. Let me. Let's. Okay, so I'll share two with you, which are very um prevalent to our conversation. The first one is from Dave Chappelle. And his quote is, "The beauty is in the attempt." And what that means to me is that the beauty of things, the things that we look back on, the things that we remember, is when we were hustling and going in the direction that we needed to go, and doing those things, attempting those things that failed or worked. And then that is the beautiful part of life, is when you attempt to do those things, when you put in the drive and the effort. And I think that coming from what I consider a top five comedian of all time, is it's great, because to be a comedian, you need to fail a lot, because you can tell a lot of jokes that don't work. So you better find the attempt beautiful. And then the other one is from actor Alec Guinness, who was Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars, the original three. And he said, "Failure has 1,000 explanations. Success doesn't need one." Okay, so basically, like, what
Yes.
does that mean? It's like, like, you are going to fail a bunch of times. You're going to you're going to dissect, and you're going to replay your failures in your mind, but once you get to that success, unfortunately, I don't know if it's a human trait or not. Once you get to that success, you don't really keep replaying it in your head. You're on to the next thing. You try to do the next thing. You know, you don't try to explain the success. You're always trying to explain the failure. Why I failed because of X, Y, Z. Okay, but why did you succeed? You know, like think about
100%.
that.
And that's also equally as important to the hustle. So
Yes.
failure and success. I'm happy to watch yours, and I'm glad you shared your story with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Aaron. I really appreciate having this platform and really appreciate you. The things that you said about me were really touched my heart because I really put my heart into all that stuff. And I'm putting my heart into it now. And man, I can't wait to the next time I see you, who knows what we'll be.
100%. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good and always keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. If you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.